Well, at this point in the game, working on two projects at once, Turbo Steve's Ninja and our FZR, and we have turned the garage into a laundromat here, I guess. And we've had this before where there's fairings and seats and parts and tanks and Bondo, and doesn't get a lot more fun than this if you're a real motorcyclist. So it looks like Steve was over here today, and I went over this with him. It looks like we've gotten rid of the fisheye issue. I even took some time off camera to get these into white so we could see if the fisheyes were going to reappear. They're perfect. The headlight came out perfect. I redid a couple of my parts, the smaller parts. I wanted to get this. Not any issue with fisheyes. I've got one more coat of white on my fairing so that I want that stripe to be white. And I guess sooner or later we're going to have some other body parts to work on here. This is going to be a major job. This is going to be a major job. When Steve was here, I explained to him why I wanted to have the extra coats of white. Because I want that white stripe to really pop. And if that white stripe is gray or dull, you'll lose the whole effect, my whole vision of the paint job. Now, if you've ever done a job like this and you're done, I'm just going to make an example up. If you painted the black and didn't have the white stripe around it, you'd see right away, oh boy, that white stripe is critical, and it's got to be white. So as crazy as it is, it sounds like crazy because the only part of this bike that's going to be white is that stripe. But I want that stripe as white as I can possibly make it. And the only way you're going to get white to be as white as possible, 3-4 coats. And a lot of times I've painted something white, I've not noticed until I took it out in the sun, it really wasn't white, it was kind of gray. Don't want that to happen on this job. But it is a laundromat. It really is. It really is. I don't know how to explain it. Having this many parts around, but the advantage of this is I can always have a part that's dry, ready to sand, ready to do the next step. If all the paint were drying, I could do the Bondo work on the tank. This fairing needs a lot of extensive repair, carbon fiber repair. So the objective is to have one thing drying at all times, whether it's hanging from the laundry. Oh, laundry, boy, this brings back memories of when Vlad had a bunch of his stuff here. The days we spent with Glenn doing that bike over and over again. A lot of good memories. So what I want to work on in this session, I want to try to lay out that stripe. It's going to be exactly the same as the fender, and I need to get it exactly in the middle and exactly straight. And what'll help a whole lot is a big cup of Karen's coffee. Now, because of that snow, we actually did get an extra sand out on the white parts, some more detailing, and we're real happy now. As I looked at these parts in white, these are the parts of the Ninja project, and these parts, boy, they were contaminated as could be, but it does look like we have solved them. I hope that's true, and I hope we've been able to pass on that information regarding fisheyes. That's significant stuff. Now the fairing, this is I guess in my mind's eye, I have already seen how this is going to look, but I want to see it in real life too. Before I go any further, in case I want to change my mind or change the thickness, once I get that stripe laid out, then that's one part of the puzzle. Now the way this lays out is I need to have the side pieces, the tank, and the seat on the bike, and then get that line perfectly straight. I'm going to have to do that on a dedicated day. And we're far away from having that done because we still haven't done the second piece of the fairing. But I want to have the rest of it, the top fairing, I don't need to have the bike assembled to do that. I can do that part of the stripe and the fender off the bike. So if you know ahead of time what parts have to be on the bike, what parts don't, just helps you lay out the project a little bit better. And as I always say, it's the sequencing of a lot of these things that either makes it very easy or it makes you crazy. So if I get that stripe on today, I'll feel real good about it, that's for sure. Now, of course, step one, just like the fender, is to lay out what I think will be a center line by eye. And we'll do a little measuring, see how accurate we are. But what I have always said is, if you're in doubt and the measurement doesn't look right, but your eye does, go with your eye. You know, I'm just eyeballing this, but I know it's not accurate. So let me show how I would check. Step one, of course, fresh tape. Without a center line, you're just like throwing darts in the dark. So got to get the center line on first. If I know this looks okay, now here's what I want to do. I want to take a couple little pieces of tape. And I know this is not a really high-tech way to do it, but this is a way that pretty much works for me, well, for many years. So, now another thing too, I've watched videos of other people painting and doing their bodywork thing to learn things. And sometimes I'll watch a video for an hour, 45 minutes, whatever, and I only learn one thing. But that one thing I know for the rest of my life. So, passing on information, always a good idea. Now I'm going to measure. This is really a silly way to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I know this is not a scientific way to do it. Let me do the ruler right up here. I'm on the number 2. So now it tells me which side that's favoring. You know what I did, I laid out a parallel piece of tape and I measured across this, because of course we have a varying angle there. And this is actually the mechanically true center. So what I'm going to do is move the top of the line over to that amount. Now I know this part of it is perfect, and then I just want to true up the bottom. And it looks like I was off by a good 1/8 of an inch. But that's why it eyeball and measure, and you're probably stacking the deck in your favor. Now this is actually where it should be, so I've marked that with a piece of tape again. And I want to thank Les Demet. He worked with me many, many years, taught me quite a bit about doing this exact kind of thing, this geometric laying out of tape. Okay, so now this only establishes that now we're mechanically exactly on center. Now we still have to do the same thing at the bottom. Now if you look at it accurately, you can see that line goes down. Well, now we want it to be exact. So I want to measure from 4 points. And around this, and around this. And when they're all exactly the same, I know I've got that line going right down the middle. And you think it an 1/8 of an inch, nobody would notice it? Well, the problem is I would notice it. Just to verify I have this right, I have a measurement. I can go right to the corner. See, I need reference marks. Corner to here, here to the corner, and make sure it's all parallel. And I can see already when I did the rough measurement off camera, this still has to go over this way about an 1/8 of an inch. Mechanically correct place that this should be. So right now it's very easy. I'm taking off this big blue tape. I know I have that accurate, and I'm just going to eyeball and bring this tape down until it marries up to that line. Then the only thing I'll have to check is underneath. It sounds like, and this probably takes over an hour to do this, sounds like it's very labor intensive, but if this is wrong, believe me, there's people, the people that paint things are going to see it right away. Vince will see it. That's the worst thing of all. So now I know I'm on center here. I know I'm on center there very accurately. The last little thing, I'm going to flip it over, look underneath, and make sure I have it on center. Even though underneath you're not going to see, you know what? It just takes 5 minutes more and we'll get this right. Even the part of it that you don't see will be perfect. I remember, this is a funny thing, I remember watching somebody in the Chip Foose videos, and I'd watch the whole thing. I'd say, yeah, I know that, I know that. And I'd find something I didn't know, and it was worth watching the whole video. So by me taking some of that information, all I'm really doing is passing it on. And I hope you, if nothing else, I hope you can benefit by it. Now that's the mechanical center, so I can hold a thumb here. I know I'm right up to this point. And now I know I've got a pretty good chance. There's never a perfect chance, but pretty good chance that I've got this lined up as close as I can. And that little thing, when we were doing model airplanes and Les Demet was doing everything with a center line, I thought at the time, wow, I wish I would have known that years ago. Well, maybe this video will help you learn it way ahead of time. Now you would think, after all this work, I'd be happy, but I'm always nervous about it, because it's got to be mechanically right, and just like the pillars at the Parthenon, sometimes something that's mechanically right, it doesn't look in your mind's eye the way it should. But anyway, now from this point on, it's pretty much going to be just laying it out. I want it to be an exact match of the fender. So this, which we've done already, we know that that looks about like what we're looking for. Laying this out should be not a whole lot different. And it's probably warming up. It's probably over freezing again. We may even be able to get this painted today, which would be a free bonus. But again, what this is like building a foundation of a house. If you don't spend the time and get the foundation level and true and plumb and everything, you go to put the sheetrock up and it's... And I know all about that. Believe me, I restored 300-year-old houses, including this one, in my life, and nothing is ever straight or level. Now another thing, if you do a paint scheme that like skulls or flames where everything is, and well, it's easy as pie. When you do a mechanically correct thing where it's got to be in the middle, it's got to be straight, it's got to be level, a little bit more effort. If we were just painting flames on this, and saying, well, it's really not that easy, it's talent involved, but you don't have to do a lot of measuring, that's for sure. Or you do less anyway. All beside the point. Laying out tape, time consuming, but you must absolutely start with that first piece. That center line, if you're going to do this kind of a job, that center line better be right on the money. Well, Vince will see it, and that's the end of it. Now this stripe is going to be exactly the same. Carry down, go through the fender, go up around over the tank, over the seat, and down the back. And I think that's one of the defining things of, it makes a bike look like a classic 80s bike, because a lot of the bikes had that. A lot of the Yamahas anyway. Now just as a reference, you might remember Mark's. This is a bike we restored for Mark. And that stripe going down the side, boy oh boy, were there a lot of hours of mail laying that out. And just good memories here. Give me a little inspiration. I got to make this my best work ever. I always try to make each one just a little bit better than the one before, but it doesn't always happen. So I'm at the point I can lay out the 1/8 inch tape now for the final stripe, and then pull out all the pattern, the middle parts. But this is the way to get the striping. I can't think of a better way to do it if you've never done it this way. Now that really gave me the look that that's about as close to what I had envisioned as possible. And I know that's gonna, in my mind's eye, that's gonna just look really nice. Now the next thing is, and it'll be pretty unique. There'll be nobody, you're not gonna run into somebody else that has an exact copy of this. So next thing is to get out the back masking, the tin foil and the tape. And it looks like it's warming up out there. We'll even get this painted today. Now, as I've said before, backmasking, thank you Walt Prey for teaching us and allowing us to pass on to late Walt Prey. He really was a very talented guy. Every time I use a roll of tinfoil, I think of him. Now, I want to backmask this. Now, there's a lesson to be learned too, because whenever you lay out a paint job, you always want to paint the smallest part like the stripe and get that over with, because the backmask, and if we were to do the whole paint job and then want to paint the white stripe, oh my God, you got to backmask the thing, you know, more times than necessary. The advantage is to always paint the smallest part, next smallest, and then you have the least amount to backmask as you paint, in this case, the yellow. And I'm really looking forward to testing that yellow out. Gavin's did quite a nice job matching that yellow. You tack rag this down, Make sure all these edges of the tape are pressed down. And it looks like it's going to be a good day to paint. With all the snow out there and all, it was really cold this morning, it's warmed up. So we try to take advantage, obviously, of every painting day we possibly can. Well, plenty of snow still around, but we're above freezing. Should be fine. We still have a couple of yellow roses there. It's hard to believe. Okay, well, we did 3 coats, roughly 15-20 minutes apart, and that's got to go out in the garage now. Now that'll dry here. This is just by having it dry out in the garage, it allows that to get a good, the paint to dry slow, get a good bite. We're not in any rush. You can see the fender is still hanging up there. We got the fender stripe, this stripe. We can tape that tape off tomorrow. But I got a little bit of time left today, so I'm thinking, what can I do here that'd be productive? I think I'll spend some time working on Steve's seat. Get that seat, maybe some of the body work has to be done on it. This is a full day job here, full 2-day job maybe. Couple days on that, couple days on that. But if you do it one little part at a time, the winter goes by and it's spring and you're ready to ride. Now here's a small tip, but worth its weight in gold. I have about 20 spray guns in the shop of various, they hang in places and they're being cleaned, and we use some for spare parts and whatever. There's 2 or 3 up on the wall there. But each one has a different color in it. Now one of the things that I found really helps me is as soon as I'm done painting, I bring the gun in, get it in a warm cellar. You really, spraying with the gun ice cold, your hand can stick to it, it's uncomfortable, and I think the paint, it's just better if the paint is warm. Now with the time that's left today, this part had a lot of fisheye issues, and what I did already is I just lightly sanded over Steve's primer, reprimed it with my primer. It got a little bit better. I sanded that down, and I've reprimed it again. This will be the 3rd coat of primer on this. But you know what? I think we're coming up on having it. Now, one of the things, and I wanted to pass this tip on. When I watched Steve was working, this is a really good tip, and I'm trying to share it with everybody. You sand down a little area like this. Now, you should never let it sit until it dries, because that sludge just winds up some of it getting in the paint job. And so what I try to do is, and it's a good tip to pass on, do one little spot at a time. You really don't have to grind this to death. This has already been sanded 3 times. So we just want to etch it. I just want to get it as smooth as possible. If I find any little flaws, I want to address them. And then what I'm going to do is put a final coat of primer on this, and the next time we have a session, this will be ready to put in white. But I don't want to leave it wet. I want to constantly be drying it off. That's a really, really good tip. Now, just to be safe, I'm going to put a very light coat of primer on this, let it dry about an hour. Should be able to paint some white on this today even. But once it's wet sanded, the biggest thing is to get it totally dry. Now, and here's another tip, if you're in conditions like we are now where it's really cold outside, it wouldn't hurt to just pre-warm that part a little bit with a hairdryer. So far what we've learned on Steve's job is by using the primer and the sealer, we've been able to eliminate the fish eyes. And once that dries up, give it an hour or so, we'll be ready to paint the white today. And as I check out the progress here, it's been drying about an hour. Looks ready to go. We're going to put the white on, and we'll be able to hang this up, and that's probably all we're going to get done today. But boy, what a good day this is turning out to be. So over the course of this day, I got 3 coats of white on that part. Absolutely beautiful, no fish eyeing at all. One of the things we were afraid of, that we'd have some contamination in there. And we got our work cut out for us on these bigger parts. There's 3 big parts here: the fairing, the lower fairing, and the tank, and they all require extensive work. So what we're going to do is, in between working on our project on the FZR, and boy, we got something done on that today. I'm always happy when I can get work done on one project. Today we got it done on 2. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, picked up some good information, enjoying your restoration projects as much as I'm enjoying mine, and thanks for watching.